Welcome to Bill and Jalen's NBA Playoffs Preview.
Well, this playoff preview has been going on forever, and I feel like we've already kind of sort of answered this question, so let's answer it officially before Jalen hits me with that bat. What would be the greatest possible finals for 2014? Your
Oklahoma City versus Miami. You get the two best players, the two top candidates for MVP, going at it for their second NBA final. We're going to talk about rivalries till we're blue in the face. When two top players play in opposite conferences and only play against each other twice in 9 months.
And play the same position.
The only way they could truly have a rivalry that harkens us back to the 80s when it was Bird and Magic playing in the finals 8 out of 10 times is to play for championships.
I'm going to throw a couple possible finals out there just to whet your appetite. San Antonio, Miami, a rematch. San Antonio flipping the script after the most traumatic finals loss since a long time, and then they get redemption. They win it back. Duncan goes out. Popovich, big hug. Oh, love you, man. Do that whole thing. That would be awesome.
That would be terrific. And the storyline that no one talked about all year, as we were talking about Indiana wanting to get the #1 seed, is how it could affect the Spurs if they got the #1 seed. Because Game 6 and 7 last year, we were in
South Beach.
Yes. This year, if it's in San Antonio, that could be interesting.
You know what else could be interesting? The 7 pounds you and I are going to get if the finals are in Texas. I wouldn't sleep on a Miami Clippers series and how awesome that would be.
Now, that would be the most fun.
That'd be the most fun and probably the one with the best chance of getting us fired or divorced.
So we don't need that.
We
don't need that. We don't need that one. No Clippers, no Heat.
That's the one where that's my TMZ sports possible. The one that just coming back to haunt me. Let's transition to a second question. We're going to do a double bonus question for this one.
Okay.
Are you surprised the Spurs shook off the 2013 finals as well as they did?
To say you're surprised would mean you don't believe in Coach Pop. You don't think that Tim Duncan is one of the greatest players and champions that this league has seen. Because they don't seek the spotlight, it allows them to stay in the moment. For those that seek the spotlight, that are constantly on social media, constantly doing commercials, constantly doing public appearances, you get the ebbs and flows that affect your personality, which sometimes affect your performance. They constantly, like the engine that could.
Under the radar.
Just keep going. Just keep going. Kawhi, we're going to get him healthy. We're going to get Danny Green back. We're going to add Bellinelli as a three-point shooter.
We're going to use the regular season as an experimental.
Yes.
But somehow win anyway.
We're going to rest Manu when we need to. Tony's still one of the top players in the game. And you look up, they want the #1 seed. They probably don't admit it, but I follow their box scores, and while they don't have a player that plays over 30 minutes on average, all of a sudden you look up, they've won 17, 18 straight games. You got to want to do that.
Right. And we did a game, we broadcast the Spurs-Lakers game last month, and we asked Popovich about whether it seemed like he was a little different this year with how he's using lineups, and he's really experimenting this year. And he said that last year they were a little taken surprise. They were a bigger team. They played Splitter and Duncan together a lot. And they were a little surprised with the Miami going small ball, and he realized that he hadn't tried enough lineups to see what was going to work and not work. And he wanted to use this season so that no matter who they played in whatever series, he knew, like, oh, I had that lineup. Oh, I tried that in March against this team. You know what? I'm going to play Bellinelli with Parker and Patty Mills because I did that again in this game. And he's almost like this mad scientist in a lab. I just really appreciate how he thinks about stuff like that because I think a lot of coaches just are like, roll the ball out. This is our team. Well, we had these guys. We got to play this way. He doesn't think that way.
And also, the thing I appreciate is that in order for them to win a championship and their style, they are going to have to be able to adjust to their opponent. So if they're going against teams that play smaller, Kawhi was terrific playing small ball 4 last year in the playoffs and in the finals against Miami. So now you have that versatility and that flexibility in the lineup. I am not surprised, just like I wouldn't be surprised if they make it to the NBA Finals. I wouldn't be surprised if they won it all.
I picked them to make the finals because I was tired of getting burned by the infrastructure. One other subplot with them that I want to throw out there, I haven't heard anybody mention this. Popovich took that Game 6 really hard.
He should. Tim Duncan was not in the game. Tim Duncan's your best rebounder, your best player.
They didn't get 1 rebound. Oh, 2 rebounds when he wasn't out there.
And he was playing great.
He was playing great.
That's the other thing. Over 30 points. He had over 15 rebounds. I would think, and this is probably why Pop feels the way you just described, that Tim gets one of those rebounds.
We were sitting there in disbelief. But, I mean, that's not why I brought that up. I think...
We were like, where's Tim? They just came out of the huddle.
We thought he got hurt.
Where's Tony?
We thought he got hurt. But I think he took it really hard. I think he was affected by it. I think he spent a lot of time thinking about it. There was a story about how his daughter was like, can you get over it already? Like, come on, it happened 2 months ago. But I think for the Spurs, not that you don't want to win the title anyway, but I think that would be the cherry on the hot fudge sundae for them to get the redemption for him, because I think they genuinely love the guy. And I think he was tormented by that finals last year.
And talk about winning a championship and dropping the mic. That's for the Spurs. Because if they win, I wouldn't be surprised if that would be the last game for Coach Pop and Tim Duncan.
I wrote in 2010, somebody forwarded it to me. This was the game when Dragic destroyed them in the Phoenix thing and knocked them out. And I had this whole paragraph about, wow, what a great run by the Spurs. Like, wait, you know, it has to end at some time, blah, blah, blah. This whole thing laid it out. It was 4 years ago. They're still chugging along.
Yes, indeed.
They probably should have made the 2012 finals. They made it in 2013. They're the heavy favorites, in my opinion, to make it in 2014. I still think too tough to beat. The one thing Oklahoma City is the worst matchup for them.
But also,
not only because Durant's the best player in that series, but just the athleticism. I think they'd have a lot of trouble with that.
Yeah, they would. And we got to give Tim Duncan a little more credit here.
Amazing.
For a team that's won 50 straight games.
Year 18.
For that many years in a row, you need a real anchor.
What is he, 16, 50-win seasons?
Yes. And Tim Duncan has been that for the Spurs. And when you start making lists of top 10 players of all time, you got to consider putting him on there.
Well, so he spent 4 years in college, too. He was high school class in 93. What was your high school class?
91.
I mean, think about that. And think about all the miles that dude has on him. 4 years of college, all the playoff games he played, the Olympics, all that stuff. And it's interesting. Somebody was telling me he finishes the season. He goes back to the Virgin Islands, I think, and he does everything but play basketball. He swims, he rides bikes, he does all these things and just tries to stay in this lean, awesome shape, but doesn't use any of his basketball muscles. But I think the guy's a freak, and just to be a big guy and not lose your athleticism at that age, it's never happened before.
Ultimate
Even
professional.
Garnett lost it a little bit.
Yeah, and that's why Tim Duncan is one of the all-time greats, and he and Pop are reasons I'm not surprised they shook it off the way they did.
I have Duncan as either the 6th, 7th, or 8th best player of all time. And I actually think he has grabbed the upper hand back from Kobe being Bryant a little bit, because Kobe's now been petered out for a year and a half.
Well, something to be
and these
said
guys
for,
were dead even.
Something to be said for consistency.
Yeah. Amazing. Tim Duncan.